Hey guys, I'm ZeldaMaster, and with Breath of the Wild being 1 month away from release, I thought I'd go over my top 5 hopes for the game. Though I would like to note that I made a video similar to this about 7 or 8 months ago, before last year's E3, which means we knew nothing about the game, not even the game's title. So since then, a lot of my hopes have been answered, since a lot of the game has been revealed, so I thought I would update this list and kind of go over the things I want to see in the game that hasn't been revealed yet. So, let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting off the list is character development / background, and what I mean by that is pretty much better character development for characters within the Zelda series. Now, I'm not hating on all of the characters within the Zelda series or anything, but I feel like something that Zelda is lacking is a lot of interesting characters. Like, we do meet a lot of interesting characters, don't get me wrong, but most of these characters don't really develop throughout the game, nor have much lore that you can learn about them. They're kind of just there, you know, you know what's of them and that's it. And, you know, as far as that makes sense, because this is a video game and there shouldn't be much lore to all these characters because they didn't exist outside of the video game, it'd still be really cool to know more about these characters and to add some sort of story to them, similar to Link or Zelda or, you know, the main characters we see within the Zelda series. It'd be really nice to just have some sort of backstory to some of the characters, and with the, you know, the fact that we're going to be hopefully, you know, meeting the Goron race, the Zora race, possibly the Rito race, you know, with the Birdsmen appearing. I'm not sure if they are Rito tribesmen, but they might be, and yeah, they're all going to be their own races with their own sort of history that hopefully we can learn about, and some of the characters will kind of shine. I'm really hoping that that will happen throughout the game, because something I feel like that just is lacking within Zelda is that I feel like the characters are just NPCs, which, you know, are non-playable characters, and they don't do much outside of that. You know, they're programmed to appear within the game, kind of get you through a certain story element or tell you to go somewhere, and that's pretty much it. They disappear afterwards. A very good example of that, which these characters could have had so much more backstory and so much more involvement with the game, is Twilight Princess and Telma's whole gang. Now, if you had to Telma's bar within Twilight Princess, and if you've beaten Twilight Princess, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Telma pretty much has a little gang of people, one of them being Russell, and they all kind of help you to head to each of the temples within the game. You know, they all kind of have a little duty which they must help you in the game with. But after they help you head to the temple, they kind of disappear until the very end of the game, and they're not really relevant, not even Russell. Like, none of them aren't important, but they seem to be so important within the game, or at least, you know, the game suggested that they could have been, but you really know nothing about them. A better example would be characters like the Happy Mask Salesman, how we know so little about his backstory, and we're kind of, you know, forced to theorize about him, or even Fierce DT or Majora or any of the characters we see within the Zelda universe. We never really get to know too much about them, and if Nintendo was able to put some backstory, some lore to these characters, we'd able to learn so much more about them from the game, which would be amazing. That's something, and I hate to, you know, suggest this game while I'm doing kind of like a Breath of the Wild top 5, but a game like Dark Souls, which does it really well, has a lot of lore. Now, a lot of the lore isn't really within, like, the game's story. It's from the game's items. It's from, like, you know, things you find within the game's content that isn't in your face. So it's so interesting to, like, be able to figure out a lot of the lore within the game by looking up the items, certain, you know, attire that weapons have, reading descriptions of certain things, finding stuff that kind of lead to, you know, theories that, you know, could evolve to much more, instead of having to theorize flat out completely new theories of characters because we have little to no backstory about them. Be cool to have some backstory to these characters, and I mean, with the Sheikah being heavily involved in this game, hopefully some sort of Sheikah character will shine and we'll have a lot of backstory to this character and get to learn about them. Who really knows, but that's definitely something I want to see within the game, some sort of character development and character background to make these characters come to life and for them not to just be NPCs that are within the game. Next up, we have a dynamic combat system, and I feel like this one has been already answered for us since we've seen a lot of different weapons Link can use, from dual-handed swords to axes to clubs to anything. Link is no longer restricted to the sword and shield we're used to in all past installments, which is awesome, and it seems like that will change up the combat a lot, and I cannot wait because this will allow like different builds for everybody to kind of, play Link with. If you want to have Link be a slower character with a dual-handed sword instead of a sword and shield, you can do that. If you want to have Link use an axe or a club, you can also do that. It pretty much, adds more variety to Link and hopefully will add more of a replay value. And I've seen a lot of gameplay of these different weapons, but I feel like we can never surely say that there is a dynamic combat system until we fully try it out and change the weapons and see the movesets between the weapons, because so far all we've seen was, gameplay from the Nintendo Treehouse and small little, demo footage from other people playing the game. But I feel like this still doesn't give us a true answer. We have to wait for the game to fully come out, actually have all of the weapons in hand, and see how it differs in combat. Obviously, what I mean is just I hope Link's, moveset doesn't just change, the timing on his attack. I'm really hoping there's more to it, and there are different attacks and different ways to parry and different ways just to overall do things. And I hate to once again mention Dark Souls because I feel like all of my hopes are essentially referencing Dark Souls. It's like I want Zelda to be similar to Dark Souls, but that's not it. It's just Dark Souls does a lot of things right, so I can't help but reference it. So yeah, it would be cool for Zelda to have a combat system similar to Dark Souls, to where if I'm using a sword to where I'm using a spear, it changes a lot. Luckily there are no level up or builds or anything you have to worry about in that regard, in the sense of like leveling up your character, because that does not exist as we know so far in Breath of the Wild, which is awesome. I just want the combat to change in the sense of like what weapon I'm using, so hopefully it does change it up a lot and make pretty much each weapon feel like a completely different character you're playing with, and overall just add this cool weapon system that will make it much more fun and add a lot of replay value to the game. Now this one and pretty much every other one on the list is going to play off of each other because they are very similar to one another. So for number 3 we have DLC, which is something we've seen Nintendo embrace as of recently with the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS. We've seen a lot of DLC from Hyrule Warriors to like other games such as Fire Emblem and whatever else. I mean, there's been a lot of DLC overall, especially like even Mario Kart. I mean, Mario Kart 8 Link was added as a playable character as DLC, so that alone is really cool. We've seen the extent that Nintendo can do with DLC. I mean, they've added like a second roster to Smash from just DLC characters, so yeah, a lot of DLC can be added within any game, and it seems that Nintendo is finally on that train, because I feel like, Sony and Microsoft have been doing it for like the past decade, and now finally Nintendo has realized that DLC is cool because it's additional content that we can easily download. Everyone, or at least the majority of the world, I want to say, who plays games has some sort of internet access, or I don't know that, to be honest. This isn't some sort of statistic, but I would like to assume that, if you're playing a Nintendo game, that you might have internet access, so it would be cool to, download some sort of DLC that's within the game. And with Breath of the Wild, it'd be awesome to have DLC. I mean, we know essentially the amiibo are gonna be like DLC when we use them and tap them in. But aside from that, I would like to see maybe additional shrines, additional levels, additional costumes, weapons. There's so much that it can be added within this game, so many possibilities, that it'd be so awesome for Nintendo to do any sort of DLC within the game. I would absolutely love it. Like, I would pay whatever, the DLC prices, you know, I'll buy the season pass if there's some sort of season pass for the game. I mean, I highly doubt we'll get DLC, but it would be really, really nice to have some sort of DLC for Breath of the Wild. And I know it feels like I'm kind of jumping the gun because I have yet to play the game and I'm already asking for more content, but just the fact of, you know, maybe knowing that there might be more content to the game in the next upcoming months after the game's release is really exciting to know, because it means the game isn't over and there's still more to come to the game, and maybe possibly the game's story, similar to Dark Souls, how they have like additional story DLC being added after the game's released. So I hate to reference Dark Souls again, but it does have that, and I feel like this is going to be a common trend. I'm going to be referencing Dark Souls quite a bit. Next up, also taking a page from Dark Souls, would be online multiplayer / PvP. Now, this would add pretty much infinite possibilities to the game and make the game pretty much never ending, in my opinion, because if you're able to play online some sort of PvP or just overall play online where you're able to do something outside of the main quest within the game, it would be so fun and add so much to the game. Granted, I don't really see that happening, and I feel like that's asking for a lot because we haven't really seen that in many Zelda games. I mean, we have seen online PvP in games like Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and we've seen online multiplayer in Triforce Heroes, but those didn't do too well, and overall, I don't really feel like those will really fit in how Breath of the Wild will play out. So, seeing some sort of online, I want to say is kind of a stretch, and I don't really see how Nintendo is going to do it, but it would be cool for maybe after you complete the game, you're able to go up against other heroes similar to you, maybe in like the final showdown arena. And yes, this is what I mean by a page from Dark Souls. Dark Souls 3 to be exact. When you beat the game, you can actually play PvP in the final showdown area where you fight the final boss, and I have so much fun doing that, so maybe seeing that in Breath of the Wild would also be really interesting. And anything, actually, it would be also very interesting to have maybe little competitions, like weekly types of little missions you have to do, or even leaderboards that you can interact with. Like, let's say there's a mini game and you can upload it online and see what the highest leaderboard for that mini game is. Any type of online interaction would be really cool. It doesn't really have to be online PvP or anything like that, because I don't really see Link versus Link. I don't really see how the game mechanics can play like that. I feel like it would have to be really complex for that to happen, but it's just a suggestion. Maybe even like, you know, playing as Wolf Link for another person's world. I think that'd be also really cool. Any type of online multiplayer would be awesome to see in Breath of the Wild. So yeah, it's something I really hope to be on the game, even though I really don't see it happening. And for the runner-up on this list is New Game Plus, and this is something we've seen in many Zelda games before, but Nintendo has really never given this New Game Plus thing justice. I'd say the only Zelda game that New Game Plus is any interesting in is The Wind Waker, and that is only because after you beat the game, you're able to play through the game again with just the pajamas and not switch into the hero's tunic, as well as you're able to understand the ancient Hylian spoken by some of the characters within the game. So overall, it kind of alters the game in a sense and makes it a little more interesting, making that second playthrough seem different overall. But what you find in other Zelda games is all they do is add hero mode to the game, which makes it slightly more difficult, but that really doesn't do much else. So it makes the whole New Game Plus experience not that fun, and the replay value kind of dies off. So hopefully with Breath of the Wild, if we get New Game Plus, we'll get more to the game than just, you know, additional hearts taken when getting hurt. I would like to see more to the game, maybe some sort of alternate ending, maybe anything to the game that will just make that New Game Plus seem more deserving playing it the second time around. You know what beats New Game Plus? Post-game. Yeah, that would definitely beat playing the game a second time. Additional content after beating the game. And that is something we don't really see in Zelda games outside of like the Minish Cap. I mean, Zelda is known for not really even saving after the final boss battle, so you're always sent right before you took on the final boss when you reload up your file after seeing all of the credits, which makes it so, like, not worth it because you beat the game, but you don't see the result of that outcome, and it's kind of upsetting. So it would be really, really nice to see Calamity Ganon defeated after Breath of the Wild and be able to explore in that Hyrule where Calamity Ganon is no more. And overall, there's just more to the game, some sort of post-game, something to the game. It can be additional side quests, it can be just the fact that the game is able to save after you beat the boss, making it to where you can't fight the boss again unless there's some sort of boss gauntlet that you can, you know, tap into a distant memory and refight that, or something similar to how Skyward Sword does the Thunder Trials. But my point is, it would just overall be awesome to add something more to the game. Rather the fact that that is DLC that needs to be added after the game's released and we get it a couple months after and you're only able to play it once the game is beaten, I'd be happy with that. Or whether it's just some form of cutscene or anything that is shown after you beat the game. I would like to know that I beat the game and that the game has saved after beating the game. I'm sure a lot of you guys who have beaten many Zelda games know exactly what I mean and what my frustration is with this whole dynamic of never saving the game and always leaving the final boss there. Yes, I get the idea of, oh, I always have the final boss to refight and I can always watch the ending cutscenes at any given time because the game never saved and overwrote that. But at the same time, I mean, I want to see it end, you know, that's the whole point of beating the game, so why not give me some sort of post-game? I feel like Breath of the Wild really needs post-game, and it would just be so nice to see some sort of post-game. Minish Cap had something similar to where you can get the Mirror Shield after you beat the game, but that was pretty much the extent of any post-game we've seen in the Zelda series. Usually it just kind of leads on to New Game Plus, and that's it. Once you make it to the final boss, there's no point to play a game again, and it sucks because I want a reason to come back to the game. If I 100%ed Breath of the Wild, I want to still be able to play the game in some sort of way, knowing that, you know, I beat the game or that there's something more and I'm not just at the final chapter of the game, leaving it to sit there forever and, you know, just, yeah, kind of just leaving it like that, because I feel like that's how it is with pretty much every Zelda game so far that you beat. You know, you just kind of wait there whatever the final boss is and leave it. So hopefully we get post-game. That is my number one hope. That is the one hope that I want to say beats anything, because it would make it worth beating the game for those who don't want to beat the game. It would be an incentive, something new. Maybe if it's some sort of new attire, if it's some sort of cutscene, if it's anything, I'll be happy with it. So post-game would be awesome in Breath of the Wild. Anyways, that about does it for my top 5 hopes for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Let me know what your hopes are for the game and what you overall want to see within the game that hasn't been shown thus far. This is at least what I want to see, and hopefully Nintendo delivers on at least some that's on this list. Even if they don't, I will be happy and content with the game, because overall I am so happy with how the game looks thus far, and I am ready to play it. So I hope you guys are excited. Pretty much from tomorrow will mark exactly 30 days until Breath of the Wild launches, so hopefully we will count down those 30 days until Breath of the Wild together, and yeah, just get hype with it, because we are so close to the release and I'm just so excited to finally be able to play it. So I hope you guys are just as excited for this game as I am, because yeah, this is gonna be it. This is the game that I've just been waiting for so much. But I'm not going to go on a tangent here. I'm just going to end off the video here. So thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know what you want to see in Breath of the Wild. We can kind of make a discussion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. Anyways, I've been ZeldaMaster. I'll see you all in another video. Bye!